Teresa, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my September wrap up, or at least the most part of it. It is currently September 28th, I think, and I am still reading, but I need to film like the largest portion of this because I'm in such a filming mood right now and I just need to get it done. So this will be the first part, and then I might add an addendum for anything else I read before the 30th? What's the 30th? The 30th of September. But anyway, let's get into what I read until now. The first two books I finished in September were Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I did a sort of ranty review on these two books at the beginning of, recently, last week, something like that. So you can go and check that out if you want more detailed thoughts on these two books. But basically, I liked the first one and I was quite disappointed with the second one, and overall I don't think it's worth the hype. Because I have been reading so many long books recently, I was really in the mood for picking up a short one, and so I did, and that is The Island of Dr Moreau by H.G. Wells. This is obviously a classic, and it's about this guy who gets stranded and he on like open sea, and he's picked up by a ship that goes to the Island of Dr Moreau, where he is sort of confronted with the doctor and his experiments. And first he thinks that he's experimenting on humans, and later finds out that he's experimenting on animals, obviously to make them more humanoid. And I don't think that's a spoiler because I feel like everybody knows about this. It's like such a classic, it's been adapted in so many different ways. I really enjoyed this book while reading it. I mean at the back it says that it was like a really scandalous book at the time of coming out, and it was considered blasphemous because basically it just follows this doctor playing human, playing God. Playing human wouldn't be that scandalous, I believe. And obviously at the time people were very outraged by that, but to me it didn't seem all that bad. I mean, obviously experimenting on animals to make them like humans in reality would be bad, but reading about it was not that big of a deal to me. I don't think there's anything too gruesome, anything too oh my god out there. But I did enjoy it. I am glad that I finally read the original, because I did read The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd, which is sort of a retelling out of the eyes of the fictional Dr. Moreau isn't really but the fictionalized of the daughter of the doctor, who doesn't exist in this world. And it's definitely interesting to sort of see the scientific stuff behind it. I don't know if that's the accurate science, I don't know if that's really what you would have to do to create humans out of animals, but the doctor does go into quite a bit of detail as he explains it to this stranded guy. I gave this book 3 stars, I think. I never remember what I rate books, or 4. I think it was 3. We're gonna go with 3, and then I'll put it on the screen if I rated it differently, but I did quite enjoy it. Then I read a thriller, and that was Blackeyed Susans by Julia Haviland. Before reading this, I'd heard quite a few mixed review about it, but I did want to pick it up and check it out for myself. So basically it follows this girl called Tessa, and she's now an adult, but when she was a child, she was kind of found in a... My ears are ringing so bad right now. What the fuck is going on? It's like a tinnitus? I don't know what it's called. Stop ringing! It's annoying. At least you can't hear it on camera, so we might as well move on. When she was a child, she was found in a grave with a bunch of dead girls, and they were all in a field of Blackeyed Susans, which is apparently this kind of flower that I didn't know before. And yeah, she was the only one who lived, and a guy was convicted of this crime and put in prison. And then many years later, as she is an adult and has a daughter of her own, we kind of pick up with her story again, and we find out that someone has planted Blackeyed Susans under her window. And now obviously she starts thinking what's going on, maybe the guy is actually that put in prison isn't the actual killer, maybe it's someone else, maybe it's coming for me, stuff like that. This book I was actually pleasantly surprised by, because I thought it was written really well. It's very suspenseful. It jumps back between Tessa from right when it happened and Tessa of today, and as she sort of pieces together memory, because even as a child she didn't really see the person, and she didn't really didn't see the culprit, and kind of as she's in therapy with a psychologist and who's trying to help her through this trauma, and then as an adult, as she's sort of working with the police and trying to sort of figure out like if the right guy was convicted, because also the person that was convicted is on death row and he's about to be killed, so she needs to like sort of figure this out quickly before he dies, basically. It was definitely quite the thrilling thriller, and I was quite pleasantly surprised by it. I did think the ending, it was satisfying, definitely, and it was a turn that I didn't necessarily see coming. You kind of know, like, before the official plot twist, like, the hints pile up to the point where you know, but still, it was very, very surprising and very kind of like, oh, what the f that sort of thing. There were a few points, a few characters specifically, whose personalities from the beginning and the end didn't seem to match up, which I personally don't like, kind of just like twisting someone's personality to fit a plot point, kind of out of nowhere. That was a little bit erratic, but apart from that, I think this is actually a really solid thriller. If this synopsis sounds interesting to you, if you like this sort of stuff where like, I think it's like a common trope, you know, where like the girl, someone is convicted and then many years later like, oh, is it really him? Did he really do it? That sort of thing. Definitely go check this out. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I thought it was really well done, and I'm not quite sure what these like bad reviews are about, because I think it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And then I spent most of September working my way through this monster, It by Stephen King. I did a specific spoiler-free review for this that also at the end has a little bit of a spoilery discussion of some things that I wanted to vent about. So if you want to know my thoughts about this one, I will link it in the cards and in the comments down below. In the description box below. And basically I ended up giving this book 3 stars. It was a bit disappointing, but still a good book. And then because I needed to bump my Goodreads challenge and I really didn't want to read another long book, I read 2 graphic novels. I read Monstrous Volume 1, Awakening, which is actually a reread, and then Volume 2, The Blood, which just came out this summer. I reread this because I literally had no recollection of what had happened. The story is quite complex and really easy to forget, I think, especially with graphic novels, because you kind of just like blaze through them. I never really take my time with them because I kind of can't. I don't know. I just like devour them, and that means that I don't really remember all that much from what happened. Basically, we follow a world with different races. One of them is the Ancients, which are immortal gods that have like animal forms. Then we have normal humans, but some of them have actually magical powers and are witches. And then we have the Arcanics, who are basically like half-breeds between the Ancients and humans. And they have, some of them have like features, like animal features and certain powers, but yeah, they're not immortal anymore, basically. And then also we have the Cats. They're their own race that are like also somewhat magical and like poets. I keep mentioning poets. And then we have the old gods that are supposed to be dead. There's a lot of different stuff going on. But basically, at the focus of the story is a war between the Arcanics and the humans, because they kind of, yeah, the humans considered the Arcanics sort of dangerous to them when they first appeared, and now they're like warring with each other. Mortal enemies, basically, is what's happening. And we follow this girl called Micah? I literally read this book yesterday. We follow this girl called Micah, half-wolf, and she's an Arcanic, but she looks very humanoid, as you can see on the picture. She doesn't have any sort of obvious markers. And we follow her as she sort of follows in her mother's footsteps, who has passed away, and she tries to figure out what exactly she was after. She also discovers that she has like a demon thing inside of her, and she tries to figure out what it is, where it came from, what's going on with it, and working hard to try not to let it overcome her. Basically, I'm really bad at explaining stuff, as always, but basically the story is wonderful. I love it. I gave both of these 5 stars because they are so good. The artwork in this is remarkable. Just look at it. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's again one of the more gruesome, I would say, like not for children graphic novels, because there's some kind of scary images in it, like that, for example. But it's just so beautifully drawn. The colors are like, it's very muted, everything, but I just, oh my god, I can't even explain it, but it's so gorgeous. Just, I love everything about this. Also, the story is really intricate, really enticing, interesting, keeps you on your toes. New stuff is revealed all the time. Both of these end on like cliffhangers, so I cannot wait for volume 3. I hope it comes out soon, but probably not because it's literally just released. But these are one of my new favorite series, and if you haven't read them, you absolutely have to. And we're back! Welcome to the second part. So this book I've basically almost finished when I filmed the first part, and I just really needed like 50 more pages, and that was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is apparently the first dystopian novel ever written, and it has been made into a show as well, and so many people have recently been talking about it that I just felt the urge to pick it up myself. It is set in, as I said, a dystopian world where religion is really important and women are basically degraded. I don't know, women are basically considered to be far less worth than men, and also the birth rates have been declining due to pollution and people having had abortions a lot and birth control and all that stuff. And so now some women have become handmaids, which are basically like they move into the house of higher ranking couples that don't have children. So she is supposed to be like a surrogate to their child, but since this is in the future, but it's kind of like a regress society. It's not done with like scientific means, but it's you know, the husband has sex with the handmaid and thereby she's supposed to conceive a child. That's the basis of it. And apparently this kind of change in society has only recently come about because of the main character, a woman called Offred, is she still remembers her life before being a handmaid, and she still kind of, she had a husband and she had a child, and she remembers all those things and like what she used to do, how she used to wear like short shorts and like hang out at the beach in summer and sunbathe and whatnot, and now she can't do any of those things. She has to wear like long dresses and like high necks and like some sort of headdress where she can't like, and nobody can see her face and stuff like that. Like, it is completely crazy. I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed myself tremendously reading this. So I have read reviews where people were saying that they were really bored by it. I never once felt bored reading this book. It is written in a sense as if Offred had been retelling this, what happened, kind of to someone else, and at the end we find out that it's kind of secured on audio tapes, and this is just sort of a transcript of those audio tapes. And a lot of the time she says like, oh, I don't really recall it anymore how it was, but this is sort of an approximation of the actual events. Or she will like tell something to you, and then at the end she says, oh, that's not actually how it happened, it's just like what I tell myself, or that's what I made up because it's the better version, but actually it's this and this and that. So I really just loved every second of it. I really like the exploration of this world that has been thrust upon them, but I did think it would have been nice to have a little bit more of an insight into the global happenings, and we do get them in the kind of epilogue and the historical notes at the end, which kind of reminded me of The Power by Naomi Alderman. Maybe The Power is sort of based upon this concept of this book, where it's like people in the future of this future kind of reflecting upon this as if it were history, and kind of they do recount in those sort of reflections, that do recount the general political climate and what has been happening and things like that. But still, while that is very nice to have at the end, I would have liked that more throughout the story, so that you'd be able to sort of draw those connections a little bit sooner and kind of feel more like you know which world you're actually experiencing right now, not to like get those informations after the fact. If you don't care if a book is not super fast-paced and doesn't have any like crazy plot twists and isn't super like in your face with the action, I think this is definitely something you should read. And then the last book I technically finished on the 1st of October, but I literally only read like 50 pages, had 50 pages left to read that day, and I don't want to wait a whole month to wrap it up because then I will forget everything. So we're just gonna ignore the fact that this is technically cheating. Okay. I read The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry, which is a book that so many people have been hyping about, I think last year when it came out, and it was in everyone's favorite books of 2016 video, which is kind of the reason why I bought it. And this book is historical fiction. It is set in the year 1893 in London. And it follows Cora Seaborn, whose husband dies pretty early on in the book. And so she and her son, who's about 10, I think, move to the countryside to Essex. And Cora is a very interesting person. She, for the time, you know, women weren't supposed to be really intelligent or interested in sciences or anything like that, and she kind of defies all those rules. She's incredibly intelligent, she's very curious of everything, especially of nature. She's a very rational person, and that shows especially when she meets Reverend William Ransom, who is obviously a religious man, and he's very spiritual, even though I feel like that aspect of him is just best viewed in the fact that he is a reverend and not necessarily in his actions. A lot of the things he does are like not really what you would expect of a priest or a pastor or a reverend. I don't actually know what the difference between any of those things is, but to do, really? So I was a little bit thrown by that. But anyway, let's go back to the story. Cora hears of a rumor of the Essex Serpent, which is supposed to be this mythical being that has shown up, and it's killing sheep and people and doing a whole bunch of stuff, and everybody's really scared of it. And both Will and Cora are kind of confronted with it. Will because his congregation is terrified, and he has to kind of reassure them that nothing's happening and that they should like keep to God and everything will be fine. And Cora is just like super interested. She wants to find out what's happening. She wants to prove that it's not a mythical being, but it's just like a new species probably that's roaming the country, and she's already seeing herself like putting the thing that she discovers in the museum with like her name under it and stuff like that. But that's not all. Will also has a family. He has a wife and 3 children, and he grows very close with Cora, and they have a really strong friendship that starts to grow. And there's also a lot of other perspectives in this book. It really is kind of almost overkill in terms of different perspectives. Overall, this book is basically about love and all the different kinds of shapes it can take, and how one kind of love isn't necessarily better or worse than another. Also how love can be used to sort of manipulate people. Basically, I ended up giving this book 4 stars because I really enjoyed myself throughout. I loved Cora, kind of. I was confused by the fact that everybody in the book seemed to love her instantly, and I don't really like this trope of a person, like a main character, that's just instantly loved by anyone for no apparent reason. Another thing I didn't necessarily love was the relationship between Cora and Will, for the most part, slash not just between them. It was kind of like a love square, I would say, between Cora, Will, Luke, and Will's wife Stella, not his life, his wife Stella. And they had like, you know, like obviously Will loved his wife, but he also kind of loved Cora, and then he's confused by like what kind of love it is. And I'm not trying to spoil anything, but I think it's very obvious from the beginning that the two have like a romantic thing going. And for most of the book, it doesn't involve physical things, but I still am not a fan of cheating, even if it is emotional cheating, and that's definitely something that's going on for like most of the book between the two of them. And his wife doesn't seem to really care, which is very odd. Her reactions are extremely strange, and I don't think they make sense really. There was a lot of stuff like that just seemed like convenient to the story so that no one would be really upset, and so it wouldn't feel like they were bad people, even though what they were doing was clearly cheating. That's an issue for me. Like, I just don't like cheating. I don't like reading about it. I don't think it's okay. I don't think it should be made as if it is okay. And so that was a big minus for me. And I didn't like the ending either, because it just like didn't resolve anything. It was just like, oh, and then they just kept on living the way they were living, and that's it. No one had to deal with their actions. No one was confronted about them. They're just gonna keep on doing what they're doing, and I just like was not a fan of that. But because I loved everything else while reading this book and I had the best time doing so, I still gave it 4 stars. I think it's great. You should definitely go and check it out. And yeah, that's it for my September wrap up. I know I just like talked way too much about those 2 books, but I had thoughts, so I needed to share them. I hope you guys enjoyed my wrap up for September. Leave any comments down below that you might have. Let me know what books you read in September, what was your favorite book that you read, and come back very soon for another video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the good stuff, and I will see you soon with another video. Have a lovely week. Bye!